Welcome to our listeners. I want to invite our listeners to a very, very insightful interview with two of the trailblazers in the profession of healing for our sisters primarily, but for people in general. The book we're going to delve into today, both of these beautiful sisters will give us some insight for our eyesight. And hopefully you will take away the kind of information that will transform you to a higher consciousness and a better approach to healing and taking care of yourself. Yes. The book is entitled The Divine Self-Care Strategy. And I'm going to let the two sisters come on and introduce themselves because I won't do them justice. I want them to do justice in their introductions. So I'm going to ask Sheila, will you introduce yourself and tell us about the book and tell us about just how did we get to this point with you in this book?
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Banner. It is a pleasure to be here with you on MuzikXpose Radio and to be here with our special guest, Mother Rita Daniels, who will introduce herself as well. But my name again is Sheila Brown, and I am the author of the book that you just described that's titled The Divine Self-Care Strategy, a Wellness Guide to Total Body Alignment. And this is a very special book. It's very near and dear to my heart. It is a book that not only took me a year to write and then another 6 months to go through the proper formatting and publication and copyright processes, but this is a book that literally caused me to elevate spiritually and connecting with our ancestors collectively and my personal ancestors in a way that made some powerful revelations about what we need to be doing to refocus ourselves and our children and our future back to the simplicity of air, fire, earth, and water, the basic elements of nature and the basic foundational principles that govern all medicine, all therapies, and which should, after reading this book, govern all of the self-care strategies that we as women should be doing to take care of ourselves mentally, spiritually, and physically.
Now, so this book allowed you to make an ancestral connection. I want Rita Daniels to introduce herself and talk about that connection with the book, just briefly.
Okay, my name is Rita Daniels. I am a 3 times great-niece to Harriet Tubman. I am also president and founder of the Harriet Tubman Learning Center. You can find it on the internet. It's the harriettubmanlearningcenter.org. One of the things that I enjoyed about Sheila's book, The Divine Self-Care Strategy, is because it does relate to my great-great-aunt, Harriet Tubman, who used the 4 components or the 4 elements of earth, fire, air, and water. She used all of them, especially at night when she traveled. It was fire, the fire from the sun and the moon, the stars. They were her guiding lights. The earth, she used that when it came to healing, when she used it to heal all of those soldiers back to one piece or healthy so they could go on. And many of them thought they were going to die because back then they didn't have the means to heal any of these soldiers that were serving. But she used her one element, the earth, her herbs, and mixed certain things together, and she was able to help with the healing. She also used that air. Well, of course, we have to breathe from it, but mainly it was for her means of also part of her healing. And of course, the final one was water. She traveled a lot through the water to prevent the slave masters or anyone that's looking for her. She could hide her scent through the water. So I can just say that the book definitely relates to my great aunt, very, very much so. And a lot of things that we were taught growing up about the way she did things, her book definitely has a very positive outlook as to how she did certain things. And I called her a few times while I was reading. I was just telling how much I loved what she had in there because a lot of it did relate to her.
You touched on a lot of things that are very fascinating and very revelatory to all of us today in terms of utilizing the four elements as a spiritual guide in the way she conducted herself. In your estimation, how does this book, Divine Self-Care Strategies, tie into Mother Harriet Tubman's legacy as a healer? You touched on some of that. I wonder if you can just touch on that just a little more.
Well, a lot of the herbs that she got, first of all, she learned so much from both of her parents. And that was what probably kept her from being caught. But she also had the spiritual connectivity to the Heavenly Father. And so that was one of the things that really kept her alive and kept her from getting caught. But she also had the connection with even some of the people. She was a people person. I always knew that. My mother, some of the stories that were passed on to me were stories about how well she was when it came to the healing, and all that healing that she did would pass on to other family members. And so I was one of those that goes straight to the herb store and buy what I needed. But my mother was one, she'd find catnip tea outside and certain types of herbs that she would boil and use as, if we had colds or anything like that, that's what she would use. So it was definitely passed on. My mother was a planter. She would have a garden and it would be herbs. So definitely, we didn't understand it at the time growing up, but as I got older, I understood what she always meant. A lot of things you can't buy, but some of the things you just have to be able to put things together. Because even with my mother growing up, it was still during the age of Jim Crow, and so there's certain things that we, even myself, segregation, all of that. So we had to do a lot on our own. Couldn't count on anyone to give us our needs. So we had to depend on family roots and family information that was passed on. Certain types of water we knew we couldn't drink. There were certain things that we had to make sure that my father loved outside too. So he would look at the stars and always talk about certain things that we, watch that. Did you see that shooting star? And he would tell us certain stories about it. But that was something that Harriet Tubman, my aunt, relied on. Certain things that were going on. She knew when to move and when not to move.
Let me piggyback with this question. The ability to read the celestial movement of the stars.
The stars.
What kind of insight could you share with us about that ability to read the celestial bodies?
Well, the only thing I can say is Aunt Harriet was one of those persons that the stars would always give her signals. Certain things would happen. Sometimes the stars would be shooting at a faster pace than other times. So it was just a matter of, for her, she knew when to slow down. She knew when to change her routes, even though she would always, she was hit in the head. So when she got hit in the head at the age of 13, people called her stupid. People thought she was dumb, but she was a lot smarter than that, because once she got hit in the head, that's when she would have her dreams. And those dreams were the connection that she had with God. Sometimes she would fall asleep in the middle of something and wake right back up to where she left off. But on the other hand, when she would wake up, she already knew what was in front of her. She already knew that the trail that she was on, she knew that she had to change it. Nothing like having a relationship with God. And her thing, when it came to even the spiritual side of her, she couldn't read, she couldn't write. But one thing that she stuck with was the scripture, Exodus 5:1. And it talked about Moses asking Pharaoh to let my people go. And it always stuck with her. Her being a slave as well. And she just believed in her heart that nobody was supposed to be a slave, because if Pharaoh was able to let the slaves go, she knew that these slave masters were going to let her go. If they didn't let her go, she was going to run. She was going to go. She did it on her own. And it was from the insight that she had spiritually.
Shay, I remember reading somewhere where it said that dreams are reality, traveling the natured way.
That's true. That is correct. That is so correct. Her dreams is what kept her alive until the age of 92. Back then, as a slave, you think, why didn't she get caught? It was that inner connection that she had with the earth, the fire, air, and the water.
That's very powerful.
All of those things were certain signs that she knew to follow. Yes, and she stuck with it.
No doubt. Sheila, let me ask you something. As the author, what does it mean to you knowing that Mother Harriet Tubman's relatives have found a connection with your writings? How does that make you feel?
Well, King, it was such a humbling gift to connect with Mother Rita Daniels. First of all, Mother Harriet Tubman to me is much like a celebrity is valued and celebrated by many of today's fans and youth. That's how I felt about Mother Harriet Tubman by herself. But when I found out that she had living relatives that I could access, that I could touch, it was like a dream come true. It was the culmination of all my dreams. And it was proof that she was here, that all of her divine work and her divine purpose had been fulfilled and was perpetuating. So for me to talk to Sister Rita Daniels and to know that she was holding my book in her hands and that she would call me and tell me how the book was impacting her and how she was grateful for the insights that she gleaned from the book, and just it married everything 360 for me, because as far as I'm concerned, she is the proof and the evidence and the things hoped for of Mother Harriet Tubman, as is everyone who is genetically connected to her and those of us who just share in the collective ancestry that she has. Mother Harriet belongs to all of us, but there's something so special about knowing that she is alive through her genetic inheritance, which is replicated in someone like Rita Daniels, who is not only a living legacy of Mother Harriet, but she's doing the work. She is helping to carry on Mother Harriet's legacy by name with her foundation. And once I found that she enjoyed the book, that she was connecting with the principles that that I'm revealing in the book about how our ancestors only had 4 things that the Most High has ever given them, not just to enjoy life and to overcome life's obstacles, but to secure health and freedom. And once I knew that we were on the same page with that, that she connected with it, that she saw the value in it, and that she could incorporate it as well into her teachings as she's moving through the world, that was it for me. My purpose as an author had largely been fulfilled because I knew that this work was divine and that it was going to make impact. Because it's one thing for me to write about the elements in the book, and there's a whole chapter that's dedicated to our ancestors. It's in chapter 3, which is what Mother Rita Daniels was referring to about the air, fire, earth, and water, or what I call a few tools in the book. These were the trans-physical weapons that our ancestors employed to secure health and freedom. It is so powerful a concept that if we can grasp it today, if we can teach our children how our ancestors strategically and intentionally use the elements as a liberation tool and as a freedom and health tool. So, for example, what Sister Rita Daniels was referring to when Mother Harriet not only served as a general during the Civil War, not only did she serve as a scout and a spy during the Civil War, not only did she serve as someone who was a navigator through forestry and jungle and dense grass during the Civil War, she gave the Union Army a strategic advantage militaristically,
Yes.
but she
Yes.
also provided a militaristic advantage in her knowledge of herbs, of poultices, of teas, of how to heal what was killing the Civil War soldiers on both the Union military side and the rebellious side, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the South side was something called swamp disease. And it was ravaging through the militaries and the soldiers like a...
I was going to say, you both froze just a minute there ago.
Oh, yeah. And
I'm
it
sitting
was...
there, oh, okay.
Okay, I don't know what you heard, but there was something during the Civil War that was taking soldiers out on both sides of the issues, and it was called swamp disease. And Mother Harriet was the only one who had a cure and a solution. She was the only one. Doctors were terrified of it. They didn't even have a real medical name for it, but it was a disease that would create these legions, probably something akin to what we're calling monkeypox today.
Mm-hmm.
And when she was asked, particularly by Mother Sarah, by her confidant and the author of Moses,
Sarah Bradford,
Harriet Tubman, the Moses of her people, Sarah Bradford said that Mother Harriet put her hands on her hips and said, I'm not afraid of dying because I'm not going to leave here until God takes me from here. And so Mother Harriet went down to the swamp, which was the source of the disease that everyone knew of, and she pulled some plants, whether she knew intuitively because she was an African woman who had a connection to the earth already, or by some encyclopedic knowledge that her father and her mother instilled in her, both being master transphysicists themselves. Her father, as you know, Mr. Ben Ross, was an expert timber inspector, and he lived most of his time, or spent most of his time, in the dense forest, wading through waters. That's a skill he taught Mother Harriet, how to interpret the heavenly movement of the stars and the heavenly bodies, how to interpret their movement and the phases of these things. He was the one who instilled that knowledge in her, how to look at the bark of a tree and extract from that bark certain certain what do they call it when the
like a sap.
The sap of the tree to create treatments and to create remedies to treat itches and bites, right? And so this knowledge, everything about her experience from childhood, the beatings, the teachings, the isolation, the mother, the father, everything in her life prepared her for the work she is doing, or the work that she did and really is still doing through her descendants today and through her collective descendants like me and you. We're having a discussion about one of the most prolific intelligent beings to ever walk this earth. She is someone that we need to have as a part of our conversation
No
on a
doubt.
daily basis.
No
We
doubt.
need to bring her name up
Mm-hmm.
all the time, especially right now, Michael, as we're talking about so closely the connection between freedom and health. We're seeing it more and more as a human rights issue, but
Mm-hmm.
it was something that our ancestors had to deal with every single day of
No
their
doubt.
lives. There was never a separation between the two. Because can you imagine if Mother Harriet was 300 pounds like I was in 2016, and she was all clouded in the head because she couldn't think and couldn't move and had no energy?
Mm-hmm.
What would the world look like today? She had the physical body, the health that she needed in order
Yes.
to help
Yes.
herself and others secure freedom.
Mm-hmm.
So this
Mm-hmm.
book is
Yes, she did.
timely. This book is timely, and the topics of how she used what resources were naturally available to her in her environment, what I call a few tools, and what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. referred to by the term trans physics, which is the science of how to use the elements properly, coupled with divine intention, just like Frederick Douglass invoked during his 1852 speech, and
Mm-hmm.
just like the Honorable Marcus Garvey invoked in 1925. The elements have always been the central tool. Mother Harriet Tubman and Mother Harriet Jacobs are the people who teach us how to practically apply what the men, our kings, our warriors, were using theoretically as a tool for war,
Mm-hmm.
which I discuss so thoroughly in chapter 3 of my book, and which Mother Rita Daniels and I have talked about extensively. And I'm so
Yes, we
grateful to
did.
have her feedback on that and to know that she supported my values and she validated my insights. And now I hear she's even instilling that in her everyday dialogue about Mother. That is the greatest honor for me.
I feel like, well, I'm transfixed, first of all, because I
Okay.
feel like I'm standing before two vessels that are channeling this spiritual connection to our ancestors. And it harkens back to the spiritual cultivation systems that we had that predated our religion at the University of San Corre and the University of Salamanca, where we studied the spiritual principles that we must adhere to before it became an anthropomorphic kind of religion.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel coming from both of you. Let me ask you, Rita, prior to us having this conversation, did you fully understand Mother Harriet Tubman's relationship with the four elements
I didn't
from a
break it down
spiritual standpoint?
From a spiritual standpoint, I always would refer to the Bible and so forth. But when she sent me her book, it kind of gave me a full understanding of what she was able to do during that time. For a person that was illiterate, did not have a formal education, but she was highly educated. She was highly educated with the world, meaning the earth, the fire, the air, and the water. All of those elements was put together so that I could understand. I knew that she was involved with the herbs. I didn't put it with the earth. I knew it was part of the earth, but I just did not have the common sense to say, oh, that's part of the earth. I did not have those four elements put together. So that's why Sheila and I had extensive conversations, because I'd be reading. I'm like, oh, let me call her and tell her. Because she was putting something that was missing within me.
Mm-hmm.
So now that I have the full understanding of how she put it, I fully understand it in a much powerful way, because her breaking it down like that makes it more powerful. I understood what she did. I knew she was going through water. I knew she was, I do remember that she would look up at the sky and determine whether she's moving or not. And she moved at night. And so, yeah, she had to use the sun. The stars and everything as her direction. Certain ways with the moths being on the north side, and all of these things I remember knowing about it. I just did not put it together as as part of the four elements. So she educated me.
And that's something I wanted to touch on as well, because I've never heard the story of Mother Harriet Tubman told from this perspective.
Right, right.
It was only about the Underground Railroad. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
So no one really delved into how she did what she was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Or the meaning behind it.
Or the meaning behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the correlation between her reading celestial bodies and her relationship with the elements? So with that said, Sheila, how does that impact your life, knowing that you made this connection with her lifeblood?
It's powerful, King. Like I said, it feels like a miracle. Even the way Mother Harriet's family came to me, Mother Rita Daniels is like a sister, like a mother, like an auntie for me now. I feel so honored.
I'm going to be 68 in a few days, okay?
All right now.
Yes,
all right now.
And you don't look anything like it, right?
I'm not trying to.
Those amazing genetics,
Yes.
the amazing genetics that Mother Harriet had is definitely running rampant in your bloodstream, right? But
6 days, yeah.
It's the gift. It's the gift. And I feel so honored. And honestly, I feel so connected to Mother Harriet Tubman, because I never imagined that I would be having a conversation with her family. I would never imagine that I would be so closely connected to her. Like, it's for someone who adores and honors Mother Harriet as much as I do. I spend so much time in Mother Harriet's books. I read articles. I read everything I can, because there's so much history,
information.
There's so much living information about her. And this is what I talk about. So when I wrote the book, I'm speaking as though I'm already a grandmother talking to my future descendants.
Mm-hmm.
And my responsibility is to make sure that what my own grandmother and great-grandmother and great-great-grandmother passed and left on to me through oral tradition is what you're hearing coming from me. The story and the ability to decipher and pull what's in between the lines. That's a gift that I inherited from the great griot of my family, the women who spoke the spoken word that we talk about today. But my grandmothers were excellent storytellers, and this was their means, the vehicle that they used to communicate important remedies for health, family traditions, and even our genetic heritage. So for me to be able to connect, it's like an extension of my own family. And it's the marrying together of everything, King, that I have been hearing about from my grandmother, from all the injuries that they overcame using the four elements. But I think the real magic is what Dr. King named it. So when we have this powerful concept, and we know that it's there, we can feel it subconsciously, that everybody who will read this book and think about it deeply will say, we already knew, that this is nature was what we've had. I'm not saying anything new. I'm marrying the pieces together that our ancestors left like a tapestry, each of them. And I'm simply sewing together all of the tapestry to create the divine quilt that covers and blankets us today, but even more intentionally to be able to name the name. Dr. King's speech was literally on the last night of his life on Earth, in which he gave us this powerful name called transphysics. And he was describing how Bull Connor, who represented the height of white supremacy, how Bull Connor was literally using his basic knowledge of physics to exert his force, his ill will towards humanity, towards God's children, as a tool of using the four elements, right? Because what people have to know is that the four elements are neutral. They can be used for good or for evil. So when Bull Connor takes the fire hose, which was intended to put out fires that could destroy humanity and can destroy Earth, he used it to harm the bodies, the spirits, or he attempted to use it to disrupt the divine work of those civil rights protesters. And Dr. King said, not today, son, not today. Because Dr. King was keenly aware of what Mother Harriet Tubman was aware of, what Frederick Douglass was aware of, what Marcus Garvey, what Nat Turner, what Booker T. Washington was aware of. And that was, we have a very special relationship and knowledge with the tools that the Most High left us here in the four elements. Dr. King said that. That's not my words. He said Bull Connor didn't know history. He knew a kind of history. He knew a kind of physics, I should say, that somehow didn't relate to the trans physics that we knew about. And that is the fact that there's a certain kind of fire that no water could put out. Dr. King said that.
That's
on the night.
Yes.
Go ahead, Mother Rita. Go ahead. What'd you say?
I was just going to say that's why we're still.
That's why
they couldn't get. They could not get rid of us.
No.
They tried. They're still trying.
They're still trying.
But we're not going anywhere.
Well,
God said it. He said enough. Your years are up.
Come on, Queen.
400 years. That's over.
No doubt. Well, you know, they say that it's dark matter that holds the universe together.
Okay.
We are that dark matter.
We are that dirt.
We are
that dark matter that holds
highs.
the universe together. Because to this very day, they cannot tell us what melanin is, what it actually is made of, because it's a direct reflection of the dark matter we see in the universe.
Powerful, King. Very powerful.
So that ties into that trans physics that you speak of, and these relationships. George Washington Carver even had that kind of relationship. That's why
absolutely.
he would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning with his pineal gland and talk to the plants.
Yeah, he was
stillness and silence.
He was literally having a communication, and we see and there is in our culture is replete with examples of this. I remember as a young girl, I was in downtown Silver Spring. There was a bookstore in City Place Mall, and I came across this book by, I want to say Malidoma Salih. I think his name is Malidoma Saloma, and a brother from Africa, and he wrote a book called Of Water and the Spirit. Forgive me.
I have it behind me.
Oh, you do?
Oh.
And one of the things that struck me about that book was there was examples of the plants and animals speaking to the people. And that medicines would literally, if someone had an illness, the medicine man would go into the forest, and he said that the plants would say, use me, I'm good for this, I'm good for that. And so people would say, oh, that's folklore, that's, foolishness or whatever. But George Washington Carver said that.
No doubt.
And he said the same thing. And it doesn't, it's not assigned to a religion. These are some basic principles that come with being in tune with the Most High. The Most High left us these plants. He left us this water. He left us as the stewards of the custodians of the earth. So it is our responsibility to understand these elements, to understand how they operate in the world. I mean, let me tell you, I opened up chapter 3 with this powerful quote from the prophet Nathaniel Turner, because he said, when he was asked after he turned himself in, after causing the Great Rebellion, right? The young man who was arrogantly questioning him about how he felt he had the audacity to challenge what is wrongfully misconstrued as white supremacy. And Nathaniel Turner, our great prophet, said, it would then reveal to me the knowledge of the elements, the revolution of the planets, the operation of tides and the changes of seasons. In other words, he said that the Most High already showed me all of how this works. He was speaking the language of transphysics 200 years before Dr. Martin Luther King ever touched the earth. And basically what he was saying was, I'm not worried about this flesh. I'm not worried about this life. I've already seen how the Most High uses the elements. I already know who I am. You cannot touch me.
It's very, very, very powerful. Rita, let me ask you, now that you've had a chance to read this book, how would you say it has enhanced your work on a daily basis as an advocate, as a speaker, even as an educator?
Well, it has definitely enhanced it from the standpoint of I have a better understanding of what my great aunt was all about. In what I do at the Harriet Tubman Learning Center, I work with underserved children. So one of the things that we want to implement or include was herbs, where they're going to grow their own. And so I'm already doing some reviews. There's certain things that come from the Ashanti tribe, which he was a part of, as far as Ghana was concerned. And so we're doing some research, taking it as far back as we possibly can. There's pawpaw, I've never heard of it before, but I'm learning. But those are some of the things that I want to find out, whether can it be grown here? It was grown there, but can it be grown here? And so at the Learning Center, because she did pass away illiterate, and that's how my mother and I came up with the idea of, okay, what can we do to give back? And we started the Learning Center in 2015. We got it's now 501c3 nonprofit. We got that taken care of in 2016. So ever since then, I'm always collecting more information. It's like, when you give up and quit and say, I don't need anymore, that means you've given up on life pretty much.
Tell us where it's located.
Well, right now we're working on getting them all reopened. COVID, was a 2-year thing. So in the past year, we're going to be opening in Connecticut, Maryland, DC. There is, of course, back here in Georgia. It was in Powder Springs. We had it in Powder Springs. So I didn't want to just reopen it just to be now I do Zoom with some of the students, but you have to remember when COVID came out, the kids were doing Zoom. So I'm finding that I do have to get right back in. And that is what we're doing. We're in the process of just raising money to get all of these centers open. It's going to cost millions, but it's doable. It's something that can be done. I have to believe in it. My aunt said when she went to Mr. Seward that she wanted $20, and she said that Lord told her that you're supposed to give her $20. He said, well, the Lord didn't tell me that. And so she didn't move. She just stayed there. She fell asleep and did it. But when she finally woke up, she left with more than what she was supposed to get. So I'm one of those that I feel the same way. I believe that it's going to happen. I don't know when. I might have to keep sleeping over, but it's going to happen because there's days that I just don't sleep at all because my mind is just similar to my aunt's. It just keeps rolling. Okay, I can do this. I can do that. I'm going to do this. I'm not going to do that. It's just moving. It's constantly going. And I was like, okay, Lord, when am I going to slow down?
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Could you have imagined that a book like this would show up on the landscape?
And it showed up in my mail.
As fast as it could.
Exactly. It was sent to me in the mail, and she got the name from a person a friend of mine who is an attorney. She is trying to do something on Mother Harriet Jacobs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so uh, I can't even think of her name because I don't have my phone. I didn't want to.
Stacey Harkless.
Stacey Harkless. She gave out my name to her, and next thing I know, Stacey says, Rita, I have a person. She's writing a book, and it includes Mother Jacobs, and it also includes Harriet Tubman. And is it okay if I give her your phone number? And I'm like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Anytime someone wants to talk about my great aunt or is doing something, I like to find out what they're doing. Is it positive? Are you trying to, I have to ask myself, what is my why?
Mm-hmm.
What is my why? Why do I keep doing what I'm doing? I'm not going to let another Kanye West or another Russell Simmons or certain people come out and denigrate the name of Harriet Tubman.
Mm. Mm.
So
and not go unchecked, right, Mother Rita?
it's not going to go unchecked.
Yeah.
That's right. That's
and
right.
King, if I may say something, if you don't mind, I know you have a series of questions, but I just want to tell our listening audience that this woman is so special, and she has so many beautiful insights, and she has shared so much intimate information with me that I feel so blessed to know her. But when I tell you this sister is deeply connected to her aunt, it moved me to take what was just going to be a book signing. And after my meditations and talking with this sister and seeing the divine work that she's trying to do in the name of Mother Harriet Tubman, the legacy that she's trying to carry on, and the fact that she's a blood relative, because there are so many people who make money off of Mother Harriet. And some of them are doing amazing things. But don't we have the obligation as a people to seek out the descendants of Mother Harriet and support them and uplift them and uphold them? So when I came to you, Michael, and I came to Baba Baruch, and I said, listen, you guys are never going to believe my icon, Mother Harriet, has put me in touch by grace of the Most High with her direct descendants. And I said, we have to do something. And I asked Dr. Baruch, can we turn this book signing into a historic book event that includes the purpose of raising funds for Mother Rita Daniel,
No
Harriet Tubman Learning Center.
Ashe.
So that's what
Ashe.
she's literally one of the main reasons why this is historic, because she brings in the bloodline and marries this book and blesses and christens this book in a way that I just didn't perceive. So my purpose is now married to her purpose. And we are going to do everything we can to support one another, but also to make sure that Mother Rita's work is known by the world, that this radio show is not going to be the last radio show she appears on in DC, that we get her name out there and that we get her work out there, and that those centers rise up and that she gets to do and further her work in carrying on Mother Harriet Tubman's legacy. Because there's a lot of foolishness going on in the world, and we need this. This is like a breath of fresh air to know that there's someone like her out there. And I have been blessed to meet even her cousin. She shared the phone number with me, Mama Tina Wyatt, who's right here in Washington, D.C. These are living relatives. They're doing phenomenal work. You know, Mother Tina Wyatt is the co-founder of Harriet Tubman Day in D.C. So, I mean, when I'm telling you, I feel so grounded and spiritually connected to Mother Harriet Tubman's legacy. It's just incredible. So that is partly why we're doing this interview and this book event, because we are supporting the proceeds of the funds that are being raised by way of the ticket sales are going directly to the Harriet Tubman Learning Center, which is a 501c3 tax deductible organization.
You are leading me right into my next question, Sheila, and that is, since you have done this direct correlation with our ancestors through Rita. What do you hope will be the takeaways here for us as a people?
Well, one, I'm always thinking with the future in mind. And when I say future, I'm even talking about our young people today. I want them to know that they hail from a legacy of medicinal experts, of doctors and healers, of herbalists, of trans physicists, of divine healers, freedom fighters, self-emancipators, and leaders in the industry of medicine. We do not have to receive the acknowledgement of the Western world, of the large institutions, in order to honor our ancestors for their brilliance and their creative ingenuity and the many contributions that they have made to the field of medicine. I was talking to someone earlier today, another sister I was doing an interview with, and I was reminding her, because we all know this instinctively in our hearts, that African people, that indigenous people, wherever we are and wherever we have landed in the world, we always bring cures, healing, knowledge, connection to the Most High wherever we go. And I want our children to know that freedom and health go hand in hand, that they cannot be separated, and that the type of beauty standards that is being imposed in their hearts and minds today is not divine beauty. It does not connect them to their divine purpose. It is meant to disable them, literally. It is meant to re-embondage. It's a form of de-emancipation. You know, when you put on something on your hair that prevents you from even being able to fully enjoy the elements like fire, air, earth, and water. And I don't mean fire directly, of course, but I mean to enjoy accessing the rain, accessing the water. When you start to shun the earth because your nails are so long and unnaturally like appendages that you can't even cook properly or clean yourself or your children properly, or you cannot put your fingers in the earth because the artificiality of those appendages necessitate your disassociation and disconnection from the very things that Mother Harriet Tubman used to secure her freedom. See, our ancestors, they submerged themselves in the nature, the four elements. They cloaked themselves with nature in order to secure their liberty and their health. They fed themselves with nature. They internalized these principles of nature. We are running away from it with everything that we do. We are becoming less and less human and less looking, talking, speaking, and feeling and behaving like the beautiful humans that gave us the liberties that we have and know today. And we've got to put the conversation on the forefront, and we've got to lead by example and say, there's a divine self-care strategy that doesn't belong to Sheila Brown, but belong to our ancestors. And if we are successful at showing them how beauty and how health and freedom must be always intermarried, then we can connect them back on the right path and away from the BBL surgeries and away from the artificiality that threatens their eyesight, because in order to apply the lashes to the eye, whether they come from an animal or a human or synthetic fibers, they have to expose themselves to the formaldehyde that is inside of the glue. And knowing that formaldehyde makes up 30% of the same thing that embalms a dead body. It makes up 30% of embalming fluid. So if a person is aware of this knowledge and they still choose to do so, knowing that it could harm their future ability to see and their eyesight physically and spiritually, then that is their choice. But our job, Mother Rita Daniels, Michael Banner, Sheila Brown, is to inform them of who they are and whose they are and who they have the potential to be when they simply enjoy the bounty of nature and reconnect with it, just as we were supposed to do as the custodians of the earth.
Well said.
Very well said. Very well said. Rita, let me ask you the same question. What with the Harriet Tubman Learning Center and your connection now with this book and this event, what do you hope or anticipate that the outcome would be for you?
Well, that the outcome that people have a better understanding of my why. Why am I doing this? Why do I feel the need to have this? And when I talk about certain things being removed from the shelves of many libraries and schools, I don't want to see that our forefathers or mothers, that their history is removed.
Mm.
And I'm talking that the story of Harriet Tubman, all of the great things that she did. And what happens to me personally, if you don't know where you came from, do you really know where you're going? Because people today are making changes, trying to put us back to where it started. We're not going back. And we're here to make sure that it doesn't happen. We're here to make sure that our children know their history and they understand why it is so important. This is one of the things that we've done. We fought, and we never gave up. Dr. Martin Luther King, he walked and he walked and he walked for his freedom. Harriet Tubman, she did the same thing. She did a lot of walking back and forth from Philadelphia to Canada to New York State, from Maryland. She did all of that because she knew that that one verse in Exodus 5:1, it said, I want to be free. She asked, she believed that she was going to be free, and this was ever since she was a child. She knew it was wrong, and sometimes, people had called her stupid. Now, there's no stupidity out there, because kids that even today, they think, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. But everyone has a special gift.
No doubt.
A special gift that they just don't know. It has to be brought out of them. And most of the time, one of the very first days we do, when we have some of these underserved children who are referred to us through the school system, they're there because they don't know what they want to do. So we give them something very simple. I want you to make a raft. No, I want you to figure out how to get off an island. And that's how we determine where they are. They build a raft all the time. They went to Hawaii. They went to one of the islands off of it, and then it collapsed. Now they're stuck. How are they going to get off? What are you going to do? So all of these kids, you're not going to believe, there were still some kids that built we gave them sticks, and we gave them all kinds of branches, all kinds of things that you could use to get off the land. But some of them, they actually said, well, I got to make sure that I eat. So they built something where they could collect the food. Most of them made rafts. So we knew that some of these kids are ready to go and start with the robotics or to the STEM.
No doubt.
And
no doubt.
So we also talked to them about the what they can do when it comes to building your own robot. But we collect things from the outside, from the earth. What can you build with that? So you would be surprised. There were some kids that wanted to drop out of school, and guess what? They did not. They went on and did better things. They even said that when I graduate from college, I'm coming back to the Learning Center. Please, give us a job, because they had a disconnect even with their own parents. So coming to the Learning Center, we fed them. We made sure that they went home with bags of food. And so this is so important. The Learning Center is not just about education. It's making sure they get fed. A lot of those kids came to our classes without, hadn't eaten. They would say, I want to take this. Can I take this leftover pizza to my mother? Because my mother gave me. Some of those stories will make you cry.
Excuse me.
This is today. This is today.
Mm-hmm.
So I know for a fact that the Learning Center is so important, and I want people to know that you can go to our website, the Harriet Tubman Learning Center, donate, please. Send checks to the address that's out there. It goes, the 100% of whatever I receive for the Learning Center goes into the Learning Center fund. And that's what I want people to know, that all of these kids can do, all things are possible if they just believe.
No doubt, no doubt. Sheila, any closing remarks?
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much, both of you, for this time that we've been able to spend together talking about one of my favorite people in the world, and now this beautiful work that I've been able to put out, partly because of Mother Harriet fulfilling her divine purpose and continuously gifting us with her brilliance through her descendants like Mother Rita Daniels and Mother Tina White, and prayerfully some of the other. I'm looking for my ticket to the family reunion, Mama Rita.
Well, speaking of family reunion, for the very first time this year in July, we were able to meet some of Harriet Tubman's brothers and sisters, offspring, children. So we had over 125, 150 people in Auburn, New York, where we met for the very first time. Folks coming from Canada that we didn't know.
Wow.
Brothers and sisters. Exactly.
That should have been a media. That should have been a media.
That's what I was getting ready to say. It should be a media. It should have been a media event. Not only that, but it should have been the basis for reparations.
It should have been, but people talked about it. Some of the family members
to set that in motion.
That's incredible.
Well, we're depending on who was on the committee. I was on the committee, but I'm the one that drove the furthest, coming from Atlanta. For the people that were on the committee, they were already in New York. We went to Auburn, New York, where Harriet Tubman lived the last 50 years of her life. We were able to tour her land, which is now a national park that President Obama had that done at the time. So we did that. We came together. We had an all-white banquet that Saturday evening. We did picnics. We wore family T-shirts that had Modesty's name on it, and all of her children or family members be on the tree.
You got to tell them who Modesty is. Nice. Mama Rita, you got to tell them who Modesty is.
Modesty is the grandmother of Harriet Tubman.
Wow.
Harriet Tubman's mother was Harriet. And a lot of people don't realize that Harriet Tubman, her real name was Araminta. They called her Minty. But when she went across that line in Philadelphia, William still asked her, well, you can change your name if you want to. And she changed it to what her mother's name was. But Modesty was the auntie grandmother at the time. She was only 17 when she came from over there. She was John Green. He's the one that brought her at the age of 17, put her on the ship, and took advantage of her while she was on the ship, and she became a housemaid. She had to wait on him, but that was Modesty. Modesty was the mother of Harriet Tubman's mother.
Harriet Ross. Wow.
I must say, this has been spiritually moving. It's been earth-shattering for me and very revelatory.
Yes.
The book, The Divine Self-Care Strategy, has connected a lot of dots.
All I can say is thank you.
In the history of our sojourn in America.
Yes.
And I'd like to thank the great aunt.
3 times great niece.
Great niece.
Yes.
Rita Daniels. And of course, the author, Sheila Brown, for spending this time with us on MuzikXpose to actually show us that we are, in fact, living in accordance with the African proverb that says, we do not live backward today or tomorrow, but we live all three elements at the same time.
Powerful.
So,
and King,
very good.
don't forget
thank you all again.
King,
Sheila, you want to mention the
yes,
event
don't
that's
forget to
coming up?
tell the listening audience that this is just a preview of what's happening on October 30th at our historic book event, where Michael Banner, or Tolson, as we know him on MuzikXpose Radio, Banner, and Mother Rita Daniels, and Dr. Baruch, and Master Drummer Joseph Ngwa, and I are going to engage in a panel discussion about the Divine Self-Care Strategy, talking about some of these very same topics at this historic book event that is part fundraiser for the Harriet Tubman Learning Center, part book signing, part special ceremony to honor the amazing medical, health, and wellness contributions of our great ancestor, Mother Harriet Tubman. We are going to be honoring her with a beautiful award called the Freedom and Health Awards, posthumously for the first time. Family, you do not want to miss it. You can get your tickets at eventbrite.com at Divine Self-Care, that's DIVINE, Self-Care, SELFQARE, not CARE, QARE.eventbrite.com. You can also visit the website for Everlasting Life, or eLife in Capitol Heights, to get your tickets on the website. It's listed under upcoming events. So go to eLife Restaurant or the eLife Everlasting Life website. You can get your tickets there as well, or be directed to the link to get it. And I'm sure Michael is going to provide some links on the website for MuzikXpose.
Well, they can actually go to the MuzikXpose page right now, and get additional information, as well as listen to this broadcast again throughout the course of the week leading up to the event.
Yes.
So that people can be informed how rich the information is, and how you all have really connected the historical dots for us, so that we can see our way forward.
Yes, and Mother Rita is going to be joining us via Zoom. We would have loved to have her in person, but the Most High has provided her with a beautiful opportunity to expand her work for the institution, and we support that 100%. So we will get her in Washington, D.C. another time. But with the amazing technology that we have today,
no doubt,
as long as her spirit is there with us, we will be happy to know that she's right on board with us. Right, Mother Rita?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so one